Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The rain wouldn't stop that night. Adaora sat in the corner of her one-room apartment, hand-stitching the hem of a faded school uniform she hoped to sell at the market the next day. A kerosene lamp flickered beside her, casting long shadows on the peeling wall. Her fingers moved with practiced grace, even though the hunger in her belly made her dizzy. Then came the call. Her Nokia phone buzzed on the floor beside her, lighting up with an unfamiliar number. She almost ignored it. It was late and nothing good ever came from a call at midnight. But something in her spirit urged her to pick it up. Hello? Her voice cracked. Is this Adaora? A female voice choked on the other end. Yes. Who is this? This is Chika, from the hospital. It's about Ifyananya. Adaora froze. Her heart stilled. What happened? There was a pause, then the words dropped like a knife to the chest. She didn't make it. Adaora blinked. What do you mean, didn't make it? She gave birth to twins. But there were complications. We tried everything but... I'm so sorry. Adaora gasped as the world blurred around her. Her best friend since childhood, gone? And the babies? She whispered, barely able to breathe. They're alive. Both of them. But there's no next of kin. Her family hasn't come. We need someone to claim them, or we'll have to alert social services in the morning. Adaora didn't hesitate. I'm coming. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and sorrow. When Adaora arrived, soaked to the skin and breathless from the sprint she took from the last bus stop, a nurse led her to the dimly lit maternity ward. The hallway echoed with silence. In a private room, under flickering fluorescent light, lay Ifyananya, still and covered with a white sheet. Adaora broke down. She collapsed at the bedside, her sobs silent but shaking her entire frame. Ifyananya had always been the fire in every room, bold, beautiful, unapologetically alive. How could this be her end? Over here, the nurse whispered gently. Adaora turned, wiping her tears, and saw them. Two tiny babies lay bundled in blue and pink swaddles, placed in a shared bassinet near the wall. One stirred, letting out a soft whimper. The other slept with a fist curled near its cheek. They've been quiet since she passed, the nurse said. No one has come for them. The family says they want nothing to do with the babies. That it's all a disgrace. Adaora blinked rapidly, confused. What do you mean? She got pregnant for a man she never introduced, then ran away to have the babies here. Her parents said she brought shame on the family. They won't claim the bodies. Or the children. Adaora stared at the twins. So small. So perfect. So abandoned. Her chest ached. She stepped forward and instinctively reached down. The moment her finger brushed the hand of the little girl, the baby wrapped her tiny fingers around it. Something in Adaora broke. And something else came alive. I'll take them, she said quietly. The nurse's eyes widened. You will? They're not going to the streets or some cold home. Ifyananya would never forgive me. But you're not married. Do you have a job? Any family support? I have 2 hands, Adaora said. And a heart that loves them already. That's enough. The nurse nodded slowly, moved. You'll need to sign temporary guardianship paperwork. But we'll help you for tonight. Adaora wrapped them both gently in her wrapper and sat beside Ifyananya one last time. I don't know how I'll do it, she whispered. But I swear to you I'll raise them with everything I've got. By the time Adaora got home it was nearly dawn. She had no crib, no bottles, no diapers, only her heart and 2 hungry babies. She placed one on her bed, the other in the only large basket she had, lined with a soft old towel. Her hands shook as she warmed some pap over the fire. They need milk, she muttered, but she had no money. Still, she dipped her finger in the pap and touched each baby's lips. They suckled weakly. She smiled through the tears. She looked at them carefully. The boy had Ifyananya's sharp nose. The girl had her curious eyes. I'll call you Chimdindu, she whispered to the boy. Because God still lives. Then to the girl she smiled wider. And you'll be Chimamanda. Because my God will never fail me. She wept again, not just from grief, but from the weight of what was ahead. Outside the sky brightened. But inside that tiny room, Adaora began a new life. One not built on logic or approval or comfort, but on love. Love that would be tested again and again. Love that would one day change the world. The sun scorched the clay road as Adaora arrived at the funeral. She carried Chimdindu and Chimamanda wrapped in her old blue wrapper. Their eyes were shut tight, their tiny faces pressed against her chest. The mourners parted as she passed, some in silence, others with scornful whispers. "She's the one carrying Ifeanyi's disgrace," someone muttered. "She wasn't even family," another said. The priest's voice droned on, but Adaora barely heard him. Her eyes were on the casket, small, white, and too soon. She swallowed hard as she neared it. Ifeanyi's mother stood beside the grave with stony eyes, arms crossed. The rest of the family gathered around, refusing to look at Adaora. "They are her children," Adaora finally said, her voice shaking. "You're her mother, you should take them." Ifeanyi's mother turned slowly. "And bring that shame to my house? No. Let her sin be buried with her." Adaora's jaw tightened. "They are innocent. They are cursed," the older woman hissed. "Their birth killed her." A man beside her, likely an uncle, snorted. "Who's the father?" "Nobody knows. Twins from nowhere. May thunder strike the man." Adaora held the babies tighter. "If no one will take them," she said firmly, "then I will." Laughter erupted from the crowd. "You?" someone sneered. "A poor girl with no husband or job? Do you even have food to feed them?" another woman mocked. Adaora turned, her dignity tall as her spine straightened. "I may be poor, but I will raise them with honor." No one stopped her as she walked away. But the stairs burned her back all the way home. Back in her room, Adaora laid the twins down and slumped beside them. Her legs trembled from exhaustion. The shawl she had used to wrap them was soaked with sweat. She hadn't eaten in nearly 2 days, and now she had 2 babies to feed. She looked around. A broken cupboard. A cracked plastic plate. One torn mattress on the floor. Her sewing machine, sitting like a silent witness to her past dreams. A loud cry pierced the air, "Chimdindu." Chimamanda followed with her own. Adaora scrambled to her knees. "Shuas, my darlings," she whispered. "I'm here." She rummaged through the cupboard and found a half cup of beans. She boiled it until it was soft, then mashed it, mixing the little pap she had left to create something the babies could sip with a cloth. She dipped her finger into the mixture and fed it to each baby in turns, wiping their mouths gently. "You see," she whispered. "It's not milk, but it's made with love." They quieted. She smiled through her tears. "That's my good children." Later that evening, her neighbor Ifeoma knocked. A small, round woman with tired eyes, she peeked into Adaora's room. "I heard what happened," she said. Adaora braced herself. But Ifeoma stepped inside with a tiny bundle. "My daughter grew too fast. These old baby clothes might help." Adaora's eyes welled. "Thank you. I don't know how you'll do this," Ifeoma added gently. "But, may God give you strength." When Ifeoma left, Adaora dressed the babies in slightly oversized onesies and whispered, "You're not alone. And neither am I." 3 weeks passed. The babies grew louder, stronger, and hungrier. Adaora's pap stash had run dry. Her sewing machine sat untouched. She didn't even have thread. The landlord's footsteps haunted her dreams. One morning a knock came loud and sharp. "Adaora," barked the landlord, a tall man with a crooked hat. 3 months' rent. "You're overdue." She opened the door, holding Chimamanda. "Please," she begged. "Give me a few more days. I just need to." "No more begging. If you don't pay by Friday, you're out." He stormed away. Adaora leaned against the door, heart pounding. The twins stirred in their sleep. Later that day, she visited her old friend Kosi, who ran a boutique 2 streets away. "Kosi, please. Do you have any extra jobs?" "Anything?" Adaora asked. Kosi gave her a look full of pity. "You chose this burden, Adaora. Nobody asked you to play savior." "I didn't choose to bury my best friend," Adaora said coldly. "And I didn't choose for her babies to be abandoned." Kosi sighed. "Look, I can't hire you. But here." She handed over a nearly empty tin of baby powder and 2 worn baby bottles. "Take these. That's all I have." Adaora took them, whispered her thanks, and left. On her way back, a group of teenagers whispered loudly as she passed. "That's the mad woman with the cursed twins," one said. "She's feeding them with rice water," another laughed. Adaora walked faster, refusing to let them see her tears. That night, after singing the babies to sleep, she sat by her empty pot, praying aloud. "God, you gave them to me. Now show me how to keep them." By morning, the rumors had grown wings. Adaora stepped into the market to ask for thread and fabric scraps. But women pulled their children closer. A tomato seller whispered, "That's the one raising cursed twins." Another laughed, "She'll beg from now till her bones crack." The tailor she once trained under, Madame Isioma, turned away when Adaora greeted her. Disheartened, Adaora walked home with nothing. That night the twins cried nonstop. She had no milk, no pap. Her hands trembled as she reached for a small bag of rice. She boiled it in water, drained the liquid and let it cool. She poured the starchy water into the old bottles Kosi had given her, and slowly fed the babies. Chimamanda whimpered. Chimdindu swallowed, then paused. "Please God, let this be enough," Adaora whispered. When both babies slept, she stared at the ceiling and wept into her hands. The weight of 2 lives pressed down on her like a mountain. A knock startled her. It was Ifeoma again. "I heard what people are saying," she said, entering. "And it's not right. You're doing something holy." Adaora shook her head. "They don't see it that way." "They will," Ifeoma promised. "And when they do, they'll wish they had helped you." She left behind a small nylon bag of dry pap. Adaora fed the twins again before dawn. And as they slept curled against her, she whispered, "They will not break us. We are stronger than they know." The rains had returned, drumming softly against the roof of Adaora's room as she warmed pap over the coal pot. Chimamanda lay asleep on the floor, curled beside a faded teddy bear donated by a church volunteer. Chimdindu sat propped between 2 pillows, gnawing a rubber spoon. Adaora looked from one child to the other and smiled. They were over a year old now, chubby in the cheeks, curious in the eyes, and louder every day. "Soon you two will be running everywhere," she said softly, stirring the pap. Just as she turned to pour it into their little feeding cups, a gasp escaped her lips. Chimdindu was standing. Wobbly, but standing. His tiny feet pressed against the cold floor, his arms flailed for balance, and he looked at her with proud mischief in his eyes. "Chimdindu," Adaora called. "Ah, good boy. My strong lion." Then, as if determined not to be outdone, Chimamanda stirred, rolled onto her knees, and pushed herself upright. Adaora dropped the spoon. "Chimamanda too. You." She knelt, arms wide open. "Come to Mama. Come." With uncertain steps, Chimdindu took 1, 2, then tumbled into her lap. Chimamanda shrieked with laughter and followed, stumbling into Adaora's arms. In that tiny moment time froze. Adaora held both of them tight, her heart bursting. "They said you were a curse," she whispered through tears. "But look at you, walking, into my arms, into life." That night, she danced with them, singing lullabies as thunder cracked outside. Her joy drowned out the storm. 2 weeks later, the laughter faded. Chimdindu coughed once, then again, his breath ragged and chest heaving. Chimamanda followed with a weak moan, her skin hot to the touch. Adaora panicked. She ran to Ifeoma. "Please, they have fever. I don't have money for the clinic." Ifeoma fetched a bottle of paracetamol syrup. "Give them this, but Adaora, if it's more than fever, they'll need a hospital." By nightfall, both children were vomiting. Chimamanda's eyes rolled back. Adaora clutched them, wrapped in a shawl, and ran barefoot through puddles to the community clinic. The nurse on duty frowned. "You need to pay for registration first." "I don't have anything," Adaora cried. "Please just save them." A young doctor, overhearing, came forward. "Bring them in." They were treated for dehydration and given injections. Adaora sat by their bedside all night, her hands holding theirs, her lips praying aloud. "God, don't take them too. I buried their mother. I can't bury them too." Just before dawn, Chimamanda giggled in her sleep. Then Chimdindu stirred, eyes fluttering open. Adaora collapsed to the floor, sobbing in gratitude. By morning, the doctor approached. "They're strong children. But you need help." Adaora nodded. "I need God." When the twins turned 5, Adaora made a decision. "They're starting school," she said aloud as if declaring it to the world. She visited the local primary school with them in hand. The headmaster, a stern man with thick glasses, frowned. "You can't just bring children in here. Where are their uniforms? Registration fees?" "I don't have all of that," Adaora admitted. "But they can learn. Test them." The headmaster raised a brow. "This isn't a charity." Just then Chimamanda tugged at his sleeve and said, "I can spell butterfly. Want me to try?" He blinked. "Go ahead. Buttrfly." Chimdindu added, "And I can count in threes, 3, 6, 9, 12. The headmaster's jaw dropped slightly. "Where did they learn all that?" Adaora smiled. "I teach them every evening with chalk on my walls." He studied them again. "They can attend," he said. "But they'll sit at the back until you bring uniforms." That night, Adaora cut pieces from donated fabric and stitched 2 matching shirts and shorts. For shoes, she found old sandals in the trash, reinforced them with inner tire rubber. On Monday morning, Chimamanda and Chimdindu marched into school with heads held high. They looked like every other child. Even better. The market buzzed with gossip the day Adaora walked through with the twins in their school uniforms. A woman selling Gary leaned toward another and hissed, "See her, parading like a queen with bastards." She stitched rags and called it uniform, the other laughed. Adaora heard every word, but she didn't flinch. She held Chimamanda's left hand, Chimdindu's right, and kept walking with purpose. "They're trying," she told the children softly. "But they can't dim our light." At church things were no different. One of the elders approached her after service. "Sister Adaora," he said with a forced smile, "are you still insisting on raising those twins alone?" "I'm not insisting," she replied calmly. "I'm doing it." He chuckled coldly. "It's only by grace you're surviving." She stared him down. "Grace is more than enough." As the weeks passed, the twins excelled. Their teachers praised their manners, their curiosity, their brilliance. But Adaora still had days when she cried alone, when food ran low or when she had to choose between thread for her sewing and rice for dinner. Still she marched. Proud. Determined. One rainy morning, as she and the children walked through the mud to school, a passerby said quietly, "That woman has courage." Someone else replied, "No, she has love." The school held its annual inter-school competition, and Adaora didn't know about it until the twins came home with excitement bursting in their eyes. "Mommy, we're going to compete." Chimamanda squealed. "Me in math." Chimdindu shouted. "Chimamanda in storytelling." Adaora blinked. "Are you sure? With children from the big schools?" "They picked us," Chimamanda said. "Our teacher believes in us." Adaora hugged them tightly. "Then so do I." On the day of the competition, she borrowed a headscarf and wore her best wrapper. She arrived at the school ground just in time to hear Chimdindu recite mental arithmetic that left even the judges stunned. Then Chimamanda stepped up and told a story so vivid, about a mango tree that raised two birds abandoned by the sky, that the audience gave her a standing ovation. When the results were announced, both twins took first place in their categories. The principal found Adaora outside the hall, trembling from pride. "These are gifted children," he said. "We want to offer them full scholarships to study here till secondary level. Fees waived. Uniforms and books included." Adaora dropped to her knees, hands raised. My God, you did not fail me." That evening she cooked jollof rice with all her heart, and for the first time in years they ate with no worry. The mockers were silent. The woman they called a fool had raised champions. Adaora stood by the wooden doorway, watching Chimdindu and Chimamanda slip on their new school shoes. Real shoes. Not hand-stitched or borrowed. A kind donor from the school had surprised them with two shiny black pairs. The twins couldn't stop smiling. "Mummy, do I look like a professor?" Chimdindu spun. "No," Chimamanda said, hands on hips. "You look like a rich boy who reads too much." They all laughed. That morning, Adaora packed their food into small tins, rice and palm oil with a boiled egg each. She tied her scarf and held their hands as they walked to the edge of the village road. The new school was in the next town. They had to take a bus. "Hold your sister's hand," Adaora said. "Don't let go." On the bus, Chimdindu pressed his face to the glass. "Mummy, this place is big. Is this still our world?" Adaora smiled. "It's the beginning of it." At the gate, a tall security man asked, "You're the twins?" "Yes, sir," they chorused, eyes wide. "You're the ones from the competition?" "Yes, sir." He smiled. "Make this school proud." As the twins entered, Adaora stood there for minutes after the gates closed. Pride flooded her. Fear too. Would they be safe? Would they be accepted? She turned home, whispering prayers with every step. It was a Saturday afternoon when a knock came on Adaora's door. She was rinsing beans in a bowl. Chimamanda was drawing stick figures in the sand. Chimdindu practiced counting aloud under a guava tree. When Adaora opened the door, her breath caught. Standing there was a woman with well-pressed jeans, long braids, and gold earrings. "Adaora?" the woman asked. "Yes, you are?" "I'm Neka, Ifyananya's sister." Adaora's eyes narrowed. Neka looked at the children. "So, these are her twins?" Adaora didn't respond. Neka stepped forward, lowering her voice. "I've been watching. People talk about them now. The news, the competition. I saw their photos online." Adaora stiffened. "And now you care?" Neka exhaled. "I came to take them. Their family. It's time." Adaora blinked. "Take them?" "Yes. I have a good job in Lagos. They deserve better. A real home. I can give that. Chimdindu ran up. Mummy. I finished all the 7s. Adaora knelt, hugged him, then turned back to Neka. They have a real home, she said. You didn't come when they were hungry, or sick, or nameless. But now that they shine, you appear. Neka frowned. You're being emotional. Adaora smiled bitterly. No. I'm being their mother. She stepped back and shut the door. That night, she held her children close, whispering, You are not up for adoption. You are home. Weeks passed and everything seemed calm, until one day Chimdindu came home early from school. His face was puffy, eyes swollen, lips trembling. Dindu? Adaora dropped the yam she was peeling. What happened? He burst into tears. They laughed at me, said I was just a roadside boy in charity shoes. They said, my mummy sells thread on the floor. Adaora's chest tightened. Who said this? He wiped his eyes. A boy in my class. His driver picks him up in a big jeep. He said I don't belong. Adaora pulled him into her arms. Oh, my lion cub. Chimamanda entered quietly, placing her hand on his shoulder. You belong more than anyone else, she said gently. That night after dinner, Adaora sat both of them down. Listen to me. You may not have gold yet, but you are gold. Your names shine. Your minds are rich. Your hearts? Priceless. She looked at Chimdindu. That boy has a car. But you have character. She touched Chimamanda's hand. And you have courage. Let them laugh, she said. Let them mock. One day they'll clap. And just like that, the tears faded. The next morning, Chimdindu walked into school with his chin held high, and aced his maths test. The school announced the state-level science fair. Everyone buzzed with ideas. Chimdindu ran to Adaora. Mummy, we want to join. What will your project be? Chimamanda said proudly, clean water. We'll build a filter. Adaora helped them gather materials, gravel, charcoal, a funnel, and 2 bottles. Every evening they experimented in front of the house. Curious children gathered to watch. On the competition day they wore white shirts, tucked into second-hand jeans Adaora had ironed crisp. At the venue, judges moved from one table to another. Some had solar panels. Others had robots. But when they reached the twins, something changed. Chimdindu demonstrated the water flow. Chimamanda explained the science behind it in clear, confident English. The judges looked impressed. Later, while waiting for results, reporters approached. Where are your parents? One asked. Adaora stepped forward shyly. She raised us alone, Chimamanda said proudly. She's our everything. The next day the headline read, The Orphans Who Dream Big. They won first prize. The school threw a small party. Cameras flashed. But what moved Adaora the most was the caption beneath her name, The Mother Who Believed. A week later, Adaora received a handwritten letter sealed with the village chief's stamp. She gasped. Am I in trouble? She whispered. It was an invitation. To speak at the town hall for the village's annual youth conference. The same village that once mocked her. The same elders who once hissed at her name. When she arrived in her best wrapper and gelly, people turned to look. She's the one who raised the twins, someone whispered. The town hall was packed. She sat in the front row. Chimdindu and Chimamanda flanked her proudly. The village chief stood. Today we honor a woman who showed us what true motherhood is. Adaora, please come forward. The room erupted in applause. As she took the mic, her voice trembled. I didn't have much. Just 2 hands and a willing heart. People laughed. I cried. But I kept going. Because love doesn't ask for permission. It only asks for faith. She paused, looking into the eyes of the very people who once called her mad. Those twins, they saved me. I didn't raise them. We raised each other. The hall was silent. Then thunderous applause broke out. That day Adaora didn't walk home. She was carried on shoulders, like a queen. The knock came just after sunrise. Adaora, who had been sweeping the compound, looked up to see a man in uniform holding a brown envelope sealed with an official emblem. Madam Adaora Nwosu? He asked. She dropped the broom. Yes. This is for you. Direct from the office of the president. Adaora's knees nearly gave out. She took the envelope with trembling hands. The man gave a respectful nod and left. Her children ran up. Mummy? Who was that? What's inside? Together they opened it on the wooden stool outside. The sun caught the gold lettering. Federal Republic of Nigeria, National Honors Invitation. Adaora read the first line aloud, her voice shaking. Dear Madam Adaora Nwosu, in recognition of your selfless sacrifice and the remarkable achievements of Chimamanda and Chimdindu Nwosu, the presidency wishes to honor your family with a National Distinction Award." Chimamanda gasped. "Is that like a real medal?" "A real one," Chimdindu shouted, already bouncing with joy. Adaora reread the letter, this time silently. Each word settled like a warm balm on years of wounds. "We're going to Abuja," she said quietly. Ifeoma came running over, holding up her phone. "It's all over the news. Adaora. You're going to the State House." Adaora held the letter to her chest. "You see," she whispered to her children. "They said we were cursed. Now the president is calling us blessed." None of them had ever seen a plane up close. On the morning of their flight to Abuja, Adaora wore a borrowed lace blouse and wrapper from Ifeoma. Her geli was gold, neatly tied by the neighborhood stylist. Chimamanda and Chimdindu wore identical navy suits with red bow ties. A neighbor had donated them after seeing the headline. The entire village came to see them off. A bus arrived, sponsored by the local council chairman. As Adaora climbed in, someone shouted, "You carry glory for all of us." Another yelled, "Make sure they put you on TV." Oh! Children danced. Women ululated. Some elderly men even saluted her. She waved from the window, tears in her eyes. "I'm just a seamstress," she whispered. "How did we get here?" At the airport, the family stood speechless before the massive silver plane. "Mummy, how does it fly?" Chimamanda asked. "With wings," Adaora answered. "Just like you." Inside the plane, Adaora gripped the seat as it rumbled down the runway. Chimdindu giggled beside her. "Mummy, it's like a giant bicycle going to heaven." She laughed nervously. "I hope it stops before heaven." As they soared above the clouds, Adaora whispered a prayer. "Ifeananya, your children are flying." The banquet hall at the presidential villa shimmered with chandeliers. Adaora's breath caught in her throat as she stepped onto the red carpet, guided by protocol officers. Flashbulbs lit up like fireworks. Cameramen zoomed in. Reporters whispered her name. The Miracle Mother. The woman who raised champions. Chimamanda and Chimdindu walked ahead proudly, holding small Nigerian flags. When their names were called, Adaora clutched their hands as they stepped forward. A smiling minister read from the plaque. "In honor of Madam Adaora Nwosu for extraordinary maternal sacrifice, and in celebration of Chimamanda and Chimdindu Nwosu for their academic excellence and innovation, this award is presented as a symbol of national pride." As the medal was placed over Adaora's head, the room erupted in applause. A TV host approached. "Madam Adaora, how does it feel to be recognized like this?" Adaora steadied her voice. "I didn't raise them to be seen. I raised them to survive. This is just God showing off." Cameras caught every tear that rolled down her cheeks. Later, Chimamanda stood before the mic, nervous but glowing. "We owe everything to our mother," she said. "She taught us how to believe in nothing and still expect something." Chimdindu added, "We are her seeds. She is our sun." The hall stood still, then rose to their feet. Even the president clapped. Adaora's eyes blurred with tears. "They mocked us once," she whispered. "But now the world is clapping." The plane touched down at the local airport just after noon. A crowd was already gathered. Drummers beat fiercely beneath the blazing sun. Women in headscarves danced barefoot on the tarmac. Children carried placards that read, "Welcome Miracle Twins," and "We love you Mama Adaora." The moment Adaora stepped out, wearing her presidential villa wrapper, now carefully folded over her shoulder like a badge of honor, the crowd erupted. People surged forward. Some knelt to greet her. Others clapped until their palms turned red. A few older women broke down in tears. "Na our Adaora be this? Na she we laugh that time? See what she became." Adaora stood still for a moment, overwhelmed. The twins descended next, waving like dignitaries. Chimamanda's shy smile lit up the crowd. Chimdindu threw his fist in the air like a champion boxer, making the boys cheer wildly. Someone shouted, "Come see the children she carried with rice water." Another added, "Now they've flown to Abuja and returned with medals." A school bus covered in ribbons pulled up. It was provided by the local council, offering transport back to the village square. Adaora tried to wave it off. "We can walk," she said. "No, Mama Ada," the councilwoman said with a grin. "Today you ride like royalty." As they entered the bus, a group of elders approached her window. One of them, gray-haired and frail, whispered, "Adaora, years ago I said you were foolish. That those children would destroy your life." She turned slowly to him, calm and warm. Yes, I remember. He removed his cap and bowed. I was wrong. Silence hung between them. Then Adaora smiled, tears forming. Thank you for saying so. The bus arrived at the village square an hour later, where a stage had been erected under a canopy of palm fronds. Rows of white plastic chairs sat filled with elders, schoolteachers, neighbors, even those who once spat at her shadow. Ifioma ran forward and embraced Adaora. Ah, Adaora, you did it. You did it, she cried. We did it, Adaora whispered back. You helped me when no one else would. A microphone squealed to life. The village chief took the stage, microphone in hand. His deep voice echoed across the square. Brothers and sisters, today we gather not just to welcome our children back from the capital, but to honor a mother. A woman who turned shame into celebration. Who turned whispers into wonder. He gestured to Adaora. This woman whom we once mocked has made this village known across the country. For what? Not for money. Not for politics. But for love. Selfless love. Adaora was gently pulled onto the stage. A hush fell over the crowd. She looked out, at the same people who had once judged her, cursed her, questioned her sanity. The same people who laughed as she begged for thread or sold roasted plantains just to buy rice water for the twins. And now they sat watching her. Waiting to hear her voice. She swallowed hard. I was not a perfect woman, she began. I didn't have wealth. I didn't have a husband. I didn't even have a full bag of rice. A ripple of chuckles moved through the crowd. But I had 2 babies, whose lives were too precious to throw away. And I had one thing stronger than anything you can buy in a market. Love. She paused, hand pressed to her chest. Many of you laughed. Some of you warned me. But others, some silently, prayed for me. Gave me scraps of cloth. A little pap. Encouragement. She turned to Ifioma and nodded with gratitude. Adaora continued, there were nights I wanted to give up. Days I didn't know where the next meal would come from. But every time I looked at those children, something whispered to me, keep going. She pointed toward the twins seated on the front row, both in their award sashes, heads bowed in quiet humility. Those children were not a curse. They were never a burden. They are my miracle. And today they are your miracle too. The crowd erupted in applause, long, thunderous applause that shook the raffia canopy. Even the chief wiped his eyes. From the back of the crowd, a woman approached the stage slowly. She looked older, thinner, wrinkles lining her forehead. It was Ifyananya's mother. Adaora blinked. The woman knelt before her. I did not come when they were born. I did not claim them. I called them shame. But now, I see. You gave them life twice. And I am sorry. Adaora helped her up, holding her hand firmly. They are still yours in blood, she said gently. And you are forgiven. Chimamanda ran up and hugged her grandmother tightly. The old woman sobbed freely. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down and villagers returned home, Adaora sat under the mango tree beside her house with the twins curled against her shoulders. The moon hung low and full above them. Mummy? Chimdindu asked. Yes, my son. Was it hard? All those years. Adaora smiled faintly. Yes, very hard. Would you do it again? She looked at them, those 2 pieces of heaven she was never supposed to raise. In a heartbeat. Chimamanda whispered, We love you, Mummy. Adaora kissed both their foreheads. And I loved you before the world even knew your names. 10 years passed. The little village had changed. New roads now crisscrossed the old red earth. Solar panels crowned school rooftops. There was even a health clinic, clean, modest, and built from the very same community that once turned its back on a seamstress and her adopted twins. But one building stood out more than the rest. It was tall, painted in yellow and white, with wide windows that let in morning light. A bronze plaque at the entrance read, The Adaora Foundation Academy, built with love. Dedicated to every child the world forgot. A black car pulled up on a Saturday morning. Its door opened and Chimamanda stepped out in a crisp blouse and heels. Her hair was styled in neat twists, and she held a notebook pressed against her chest. She paused, looking at the building, her throat tight. I still can't believe it's real, she whispered. Chimdindu climbed out next, taller now, his smile just as mischievous. It's real all right. And you designed half of it. They both laughed. Inside the school, children laughed as they read from picture books. Some played with puzzles. Others wrote stories. The headmistress, a gentle woman named Mrs. Ease, met them at the door. They're waiting for you in the hall, she said with a warm smile. As they entered, applause filled the room. Students clapped. Teachers smiled. Parents bowed their heads. At the front of the hall sat Adaora. Older now. Her hair was grayer, her steps slower, but her smile remained unchanged. The kind that cradled the world. When she saw her children, her eyes sparkled. "You're late," she teased. Chimamanda knelt beside her. "You look like a queen, mummy." "I feel like one," she replied softly, brushing a tear from her eye. Chimdindu touched her hand. "Today is about you." "No," she whispered. "It's about all of us." After the ceremony, reporters gathered for a press interview. A young journalist leaned toward Chimamanda. "Why build the school here?" Chimamanda smiled. "Because this is where everything started. A village that once mocked us. A home that almost broke us. But it's also where we were fed with rice water and taught how to love." Chimdindu added, "We wanted to give children what we never had, a beginning without shame." Another reporter asked, "And why name it after your mother?" They both turned to look at Adaora. "She gave us her name when we had none," Chimamanda said. "She gave us her lap when we had no crib. Her hands when we had no shoes. Her voice when the world called us cursed." Chimdindu nodded. "We are only standing because she kept kneeling in prayer." Later that evening, after the crowd had left and the sun dipped low behind the trees, Adaora walked through the school with her children. They entered a classroom where 10 little boys were reading aloud from hand-drawn storybooks. One raised his hand when he saw her. "Ma, is it true you once fed the twins with rice water?" Adaora chuckled. "Yes, it's true." Another boy asked, "Were you scared?" Adaora paused. "Every day. But I chose love even when it didn't make sense." A girl asked, "Did anyone help you?" "Yes," she replied. "A neighbor. A kind teacher. A stranger. Sometimes even the people who once judged me came back to lift me." One boy whispered, "I want to grow up and help people too." Adaora smiled. "Then you've already started." Back at home that night, the wind blew softly through the open windows. Adaora sat outside on her wooden chair, wrapped in a shawl, sipping from a mug of warm ginger tea. Fireflies danced in the distance. She looked up at the stars. "Ifyananya," she whispered. "Your children became the light of this village." She closed her eyes. Memories washed over her. The first time they walked. The night they nearly died from fever. The laughter they brought into her dark days. The shame she endured. The medals they wore. The pride she carried. Chimamanda came outside and knelt beside her. "Mummy?" Adaora opened her eyes. "Yes, dear. We've been talking. Dindu and I." "Yes. We want to sponsor 5 more children this year. Orphans. From the refugee camp." Adaora placed her hand over her daughter's. "Do it. And there's something else." Adaora raised an eyebrow. "We want to renovate the old house. But not for us. For young mothers. A safe shelter." Adaora's eyes glistened. Chimdindu joined them. "You gave us more than a home, Mummy. You gave us foundation. We want to pass it on." Adaora pulled both their hands into hers. "I thought I was planting seeds in pain," she whispered. "But they grew into trees of purpose." At midnight, a breeze swept through the village. Somewhere, a baby cried. Somewhere else, a mother rocked her child and whispered words of hope. And in a house once filled with hunger and whispers, there now lived legacy. A legacy built not on wealth or status or fame, but on a woman who had nothing and yet gave everything. The fool they laughed at was now the name on the lips of every child with a future. And the twins they called a curse had become the miracle that saved them all. The end. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe, and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.